Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports, now fully in gear to prep for Week 15 in the NFL. Eagles taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers this week in a 4:25 matchup on Sunday. Johnny Mac, how you doing in this Thursday morning, brother?
Doing well. Yeah. It's not the AJ and Jalen show, so let's get it going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what Jordan Mailata said. Not let's get it going, but
Yeah, I saw that quote from Mailata.
Yeah, it's not the AJ and Jalen show, although it is this week.
Yeah, right. It has been, and we will talk a little bit about what those guys had to say. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we will discuss what they had to say, and then, as I mentioned, we will deep dive into the Pittsburgh Steelers playoff, or not the playoff game, the Pittsburgh Steelers game this weekend, Week 15. Russell Wilson, Johnny Mac, 6-0 versus the Birds, 5-0 regular season, 1-0 in the playoffs. The famous Jadeveon Clowney, Carson Wentz game in Philly. Russell Wilson loves playing in Philadelphia, Johnny.
Yeah, never lost, man. Never lost to the Eagles. They're white whales, so to speak. They never stopped talking about how they wanted him back in the draft. And it's ironic because they ended up getting Nick Foles, who did eventually end up getting them a Super Bowl, their only Super Bowl championship. So you can't call that a failure. But obviously, Russell's had arguably a Hall of Fame career. So, but I always say about that, the constant complaints, he's the 75th pick in the draft. If you loved him that much, take him in the second round. If you loved him, take him in the first round. It would have worked if he had the same career.
Yeah, right. How much did you really love him?
Yeah, exactly. So I never, and they never stopped talking about it. How they were so close to getting him, and I mean it's the third round.
That had anything to do with how they ended up with Jalen Hurts?
A little bit, and the fact that Howie's kind of mentioned it before. He didn't want another Russell Wilson situation by trying to wait to the third round. So a little bit, yeah. They learned from that, so you could take that bright side of that, but just in the actual picture of this particular player, Russell Wilson. Yeah, I never buy into that. 75th pick in the draft. Like I said, take him in the second round. Take him in the first round, and you still would have hit a home run. Now obviously that was the Fletcher Cox year, so they're not, they weren't going to take him. Whatever Fletcher was, 11th, 12th overall, they weren't going to take him that high. But second round pick was Michael Kendricks, very good player. But I mean, come on, if you loved him that much, that's where you take him.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll talk about that. Like I said, we'll put the final touches on the little drama stuff. I thought AJ and Jalen both had good comments yesterday. I like Jalen's press conference. He sounded like he was pretty good. AJ was fine. Is it just damage control though, John? At that point, when you get a press conference after something like this happens, I know everybody's excited to hear what they have to say, but
yeah, I think it's damage control. That's what Jordan Mailata was probably the best. He's like, there's nothing we can do now. People are going to take it any way they want to take it.
Right.
And he's right. So it is all damage control at this point. AJ clarified his, passing comment, which is so obvious. I mean, but again, we talked about it on the postgame show, saying that one word, not expounding and explaining what you're saying. It was going to be a problem. So if he said what he said yesterday after the game, nobody would have a problem.
Right.
So, and then BG, let's be honest, he did talk out of school and the rare mistake from Brandon Graham, veteran player. So this was all BG's fault. I love the guy, but I hate to put it, it's all BG's fault. And then I still think there's a bit of a disconnect because what concerned me, and I think you're right, that was one of Jalen's top 5 press conferences ever.
Yeah, I listened to the full thing. I agree.
But towards the end of it, he used the word submitted. I've submitted myself to whatever it takes to win. He's usually very intentional with his words.
Right.
He's talking about submitting to this style of offense. Um, I don't think that's a good thing. And AJ on the other hand is like, you know, and he put the Joker thing up on,
Yeah, yeah, on his social medias.
he's playing the villain to try to point out, hey, this is a fucking problem, which he shouldn't have to point out. And then the quarterback saying, well, but we're winning, so I've submitted to this. Yeah, but the whole point is it's going to be a problem at some point. At least that's what everybody seems to think. It's funny. We got talking, a couple of reporters and me got talking about Eric Dickerson and Saquon potentially breaking his record. And he didn't win MVP. And I'm like, I know it's been so long. I didn't remember who won MVP that year. And it was Dan Marino. And I think that's a perfect, and Dan should have won the MVP that year. And I think it's a perfect correlation of Dan never won a Super Bowl, got there first, never won a Super Bowl. One of the great pure passers of all time. Also, Dan Fouts, I would put in that same category. Both Hall of Famers, both just outrageous passing attacks in the primes of their careers. And they never won a Super Bowl because they were too pass heavy. And then, you take it to the other side, the Eric Dickersons of the world, the Chris Johnsons, the Adrian Petersons, who I got to see up close. They never win the Super Bowl because they're too run heavy. And the Eagles are in the latter category right now. Nobody's saying you want to be Dan Marino, but you got to be better.
No doubt. And I think what you said echoed yesterday for me when I listened to the press conferences of this is not locker room issues. This is on the field issues. They have to fix the passing game and everything else will be perfectly fine. And that's the way I took it. Now, John, one quick question for you on what AJ Brown had to say yesterday. We had Sal Palantonio from ESPN last night on the night show.
Sal was down there yesterday.
Yeah, he joined from the NovaCare complex. It was cool. He had a nice Eagles backdrop. But one of his takeaways, without putting words in his mouth, but I just re-listened to the segment and I paraphrased it here. In your opinion, did AJ Brown use the media to get the message out here because he felt like it needed to get out? That was one of Sal Pal's takeaways, that he kind of used the big bad Philly media, as everybody likes to call them.
Or we had a guy yesterday that said we're throwing salt balls. So which is it?
Yeah, right.
We had a guy yesterday. Now, well, he said that. That's why Sal said it. AJ said it.
Right.
Basically, he said, if it's got to be me, it's got to be me. If I'm that guy, I will be that guy gladly. That's what it is. I'll read you the entire quote. I'm okay with being whatever bad guy I have to be for this city or town, whatever the case may be, for my team to hold everybody accountable, be accountable, and to get better. If I'm that guy, I will be that guy gladly. That's what it is. That's why Sal said that, because that's AJ's direct quote. Now, do I believe that? I'm not sure I believe it, and that's where the Joker stuff comes in.
Right.
I think that's back to Jordan Mailata's point. If now it's all damage control now it's, was that his plan to identify? Why did he need a plan to identify? It's fucking obvious. They threw for 83 net yards against the Carolina Panthers. AJ Brown's got to identify that? Now, I realize there's some fans that get upset no matter when you criticize the team, and you felt that when you put up some of the bottom 5 passing stats, now 31st in the league, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, but they're winning games. So, you're always going to have that group that's got the pom-poms, going to be the cheerleaders, yada, yada, yada. Nobody's got to point that out. So, no, I don't think he was using us to get out the point. Hey, by the way, guys, if you haven't noticed, the passing game stinks. So, no, I don't buy that completely. I think that's more of, spin now. And as far as being the bad guy, and later he got asked, "Do you think you're misunderstood?" And I do think he's misunderstood. I've talked about that for years. People think, like people say he's complaining, but he still to this day is not complained about not getting the football this year. Obviously wants the football, but he's not specifically complained about it. But people think he has. And he said, "I'm not going to play the victim role." I said that for a reason, to bring that awareness. That's what I said, regardless of if I'm misunderstood or how I'm perceived. That's fine. Well, I would just say to that, if you need A.J. Brown to point out to you that this passing offense isn't working right now, the problem's probably not on A.J. Brown's side. So do I believe it? He might believe it. I don't believe it. But we were already talking about it on this show and every other show. So it was already out there. And, I try to put all the context on it, but they're winning games. And that's fine to be.
Yeah. And that's the rebuttal of everybody that if anybody wants to talk about this, and I wanted to talk about it, and now I'm getting the hate comments on the channel, Johnny Mac. The tables have turned on Big Zay. What do you think of this comment here? Dabney checks in, and Dabney is not a fan of Philly media, to put it mildly, based on his comments in the chat. But he puts, "I mean, you could clearly tell AJ was talking about the passing game as a whole, but once again, Philly media, he's got to be talking about Hurts." And just asking you, John, what do you have to say about that line of thinking? Because when I think about that comment, I think, well, who throws the fucking ball every day, every play? Who touches the ball now? I know there's concepts. I know there's coverages. I know there's all sorts of different things, routes. I get it. There's a lot more to it. But how is it not about Hurts? What do you have to say to that comment? And do you agree with me, or maybe?
Well, I can't even get to the comment because I'm enthralled by the Philly media comment.
Oh, you should have seen our channel yesterday.
I mean,
Philly media. How is this? This is the one time it's actually not Philly media. The players.
I just think it's so dumb. Like somebody says Philly media, I turn off. I'm like, what do you think? I can go down the list of all the names, the 30 people that are there yesterday. What do you think? We're all in concert? Do you think we all sit there as a platoon and sit there and say, "Hey, we're gonna upset your favorite team today because we're horrible people"? I mean, I can't even get by. It's so dumb. It's so lowest common denominator. It's common sense. The Philly media is not a thing. If you want to call out an individual reporter, call out an individual reporter, because I got nothing to fucking do with them and they got nothing to do with me. Good, bad, or indifferent. Period. So anybody who says Philly media, shut the fuck up. It's stupid.
F-bomb early on the show today. Not everybody happy, John. It's the
it is a
bigger deal.
It is a stupid comment every time anybody uses that term. That's number one. But that's a pet peeve because I'm in the Philly media. It's just dumb. But beyond that, about the passing game, again, you can stick your head in the sand and say it's not a problem. And you might even be right, but I think you saw the margin of error in what it was against Carolina. You're a Xavier Legette drop away from probably losing a football game against a 3-win team. Now, good luck against a good team who's playing well on a particular game day if you bring that sort of effort with the passing game. Now, that was rock bottom. Like I said, Pittsburgh is one of the best defenses in the NFL. Arguably the best, right there. They could be in the conversation with the Eagles. Very few teams are at that top tier. They're one of them. The Eagles have been one of them. And I can't even picture against Pittsburgh them having that kind of passing performance, because they're going to be better. They almost have to be better. So, part of it will take care of itself. And again, I'm not trying to turn them into Dan Marino's Dolphins or Dan Bouts' Chargers.
Right.
We're just talking about efficiency and competency. And maybe then that can lift you up to the level where you want to be. If the other sides hold up as well, Saquon's got to stay healthy, keep playing at an MVP level. Defense has still got to play like they're the best defense in the NFL. You need those as well. And I think people have defaulted to that as, well, that will never change. There's no guarantee that's not going to change either. Little bit of chinks in the armor defensively against Carolina when you saw some issues with Adam Thielen specifically. Chuba Hubbard just 5, 6, 7 yards, big said, at a chop, and all of a sudden you're having a little bit more difficulty. And you can see again the other 3 teams. I think everybody's focused in on the 3 teams in the NFC North. And there's a couple other ones that could jump up. We've seen Tampa Bay. We've seen the Rams in the past. Who knows? Big game tonight in the NFC West. We'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, margin of error. That's what it's about. Margin of error.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. I'm gonna welcome everybody in this morning. We appreciate everybody here. Even if you're mad at the Philly media, we appreciate you being here. Hit that like button for us on the show.
Nobody, if they think about it, they can't believe that. They can't. I must
have got 200 comments yesterday on the channel after I posted up a poll. The media is the word. I hate the media. I'm not mad at Brandon Graham. I'm mad at the media. I'm like, what? I don't know what. But hey, listen, that's what some people do. I appreciate the super chats coming in. We have a full open show today, so we will deep dive into the Eagles versus Steelers game. Should be a great matchup this weekend, everybody. Looking forward to talking about that game. And then I know people might not want to talk about the passing game. We got to talk about the passing game. I have some interesting, they're not stats, they're grades. And I think Kellen Moore potentially could be skating off easy when it comes to this passing game. I know Jalen Hurts hasn't been his best right now throwing the ball, but I think we got to look a little bit more at Kellen Moore, and I will run that by Johnny Mac a little bit later on in the show. So looking forward to talking about that and the super chats that come in. I will take all super chats, and we'll do many of them in hour number 2, and I'll get to the first 2 right now. Appreciate all you guys for helping us hit our super chat goal for the day today. Brandon Lewis says, if you want to see an insufferable member of the media, go watch Grant Cohn. I watch Grant Cohn all the time.
He's a shtick guy, but
I actually don't have that take at all on Grant. Mean, Grant he thrives on controversy for sure, but boy, he gives it to those fans straight. And to his credit, he's been right a lot this year.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and I don't know Grant. I know I've gotten a lot of bad reviews about, so I can't, I'm not an expert on him, but it seems like he says stupid shit to get reaction. So,
well, he does say some stupid shit, but he is a guy that's
on purpose. But that's like, I have no problem. If you believe something, I have no problem. Like, I don't believe he believes what he says. And that to me is not.
Yeah, right. You always say that you don't like that. And that's fair. I think that's very fair. F Body Guy checks in. 2 things are true. Philly fan base too reactionary, and some media faces know that and play into that to get a response.
Yeah, I have no problem with that response.
Yeah.
And you can say whoever you want to say. I don't care. I'm just saying. But the people who think it's one group, that's just silly. That obviously, we just talked about one in San Francisco. There's good reporters, and there's a lot of good reporters in San Francisco. There's people that do that in Philadelphia, of course, and there's people that don't. And mainly you're talking about radio. Let's be honest. Mainly you're talking about radio and a certain radio station. They don't come to Elliot does, and Elliot's a friend of mine, and I think he gets too much shit. Bit of a hot take artist, I'll say that as well. But he's trying to do a good job. But as far as the people that talk on the radio, yeah, they're a bunch of they're just trying to create engagement. And the guy who runs that station admits it. trying to create engagement. That's what they want. But
Yeah,
that's not Jeff
well, I
McMullen.
guess maybe because I manage everything that I have a completely different. I mean, do people want us to not be successful and fail and then not cover the team? Like at the end of the day, just like football players have a job and the Eagles players have a job and Jalen Hurts has a job, John has a job to report on the team. Talk show hosts have a job to create engagement, listeners, viewers, metrics, and things to be successful. Everybody is trying to do a different job. I don't
Well,
understand
exactly. And
why.
I wish fans could better decipher. I wish there was more media literacy. Like Jeff McClain doesn't do what some knucklehead on WIP is doing. I wish people could see the
Yeah,
difference.
I certainly see that, but I guess you're right.
Um,
Not everybody does.
yeah. So, and the people, the beat reporters who cover the team every day, they're not looking for engagement. They're looking for, information. And they have a different role than, and more and more it's become clouded because people like me and Zach and, do both ends of the spectrum. Um, and I try to differentiate as much as possible. And sometimes you forget, and sometimes I forget to say this is my opinion versus
Right. A
this is what
report.
I know.
Right.
And that part can be difficult. But I think people who know the show, I think we have, and I try to educate. I think we have the most educated fan base of any show that covers this team.
I think I would agree with that 100%. And to your point, I mean, I know it is hard to differentiate, but I think that's one of the key reasons that Birds 365 is such a great audience because people like that. I mean, as much as people like to shit on the Philly media, I think people enjoy listening to your perspectives on the team as not a
Some
fan.
do and some don't. Some
Yeah.
do and some
Well,
want
that's
cheerleaders and some want actual information. And like I said, I mean, people get mad at me, and you guys probably get mad at me for chasing away viewers sometimes, and I get it.
I
But
don't get mad at you ever. I
I'm
think that's
I'm
what
I'm
I
I'm
think.
never
Yeah,
going to say shit to get engagement.
right. But
Just to
that's what
get
makes
it.
I think that's what makes this show great, and that's what makes you great at doing this. So I don't want to change that. Let's keep rolling. We got a bunch of super chats coming in. Appreciate everybody. We're going to deep dive into this Eagles versus Steelers game this weekend. I mentioned at the start of the show, everybody, Russell Wilson 6-0 versus our Philadelphia Eagles, 5-0 in the regular season, 1-0 in the playoffs. And you guys remember the famous playoff game, the Jadeveon Clowney game. I was at that game. That was the last Eagles game. No, that wasn't the last Eagles game I was at. That was the last playoff game I was at.
Yeah, and they should have won that game. Josh McCown,
I
by the
know.
way, tore his hamstring. Played that
What was the final
basically.
score of that game? Like 16 something or
Yeah, it
something?
was
It
a
was
very low
not
scoring
yeah,
game.
very low
I'd have to
scoring
look
game.
up, but Josh McCown came in, tore his hamstring right before halftime, played the whole game. If we were healthy, they would have won that game. No question about it. Josh, I don't know what he was at the time, 40. Yeah, he played well. That's just bad luck. Carson gets a concussion. Boy, he got a lot of crap for not coming into that game. Like, playoff game. Yeah, he's got a concussion. He's ruled out. I don't know, but Carson got that reputation. Disappointing loss, but yeah, I think when you see those numbers, and Nick Sirianni says this all the time. When people brought up, Merrill brought up, they never won in Cincinnati. It's like, what does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with AJ Brown? We've never played there. Same thing, Baltimore. They've never won in Baltimore. Well, now they have. They never won. Now they have. Maybe it's that year. They've never beaten Russell Wilson. What does that have to do with Nick Sirianni? Yesterday he was asked about, what he saw from Russell in Denver. He's like, I never prepared for him, So, those types of things don't really mean anything because there's so much turnover. And especially when you're talking about, well, it means a little bit more when you're talking about Dallas trends and division foes, Giants, Commanders. But, they see the Steelers once every 4 years. It'll change a little bit with the extra game, I guess. But, they're here once every 8 years. They haven't won here since 1965. So
Yeah.
you're going to hear that constantly. Well, they've barely been here.
Yeah,
It's
Nick's
still
gonna say
weird.
yeah,
It's
it
still
is.
weird because they were such a good team for so long that they haven't been able to win here. So it's still a little bit weird. And I get why people, but they're barely ever here. So, that's what Mike Tomlin will say from their end. It's like, what does that have to do with TJ Watt or, somebody like that?
Yeah, speaking of TJ Watt, they better block that guy. He is an absolute beast. We're going to dive more into that game. Let me just read a couple super chats here. Rashid says, can we agree that Jalen can play better? But the reason the pass game fell off is because Kellen decided he didn't want the love Green Bay type of offense.
Well, well, I don't know if he doesn't want it.
All right.
He ascertained that they couldn't run it, and they're trying to build around. It's no coincidence that people early in the season said, "Oh, Nick must be calling the offense." Whether it was Nick or Shane or Brian Johnson or Kellen Moore, people should take notice that this is pretty much the same offense from. There's always a little bit of tweaks. There's always a little bit of a difference with play callers just from their, decisions in the moment. But as far as the overall scheme, since, game 7 of year 1 of Nick Sirianni, it's pretty much the same offense. And that's because all 4 guys are trying to build the offense around the quarterback and trying to take advantage of what the quarterback does well. That was not the plan coming in. You're hoping to evolve it, but they scaled back to that, which is should be pretty obvious to people. And, at the bye week when they went run heavy as they did in week 8 in 2021, when they scaled back. And I've been talking about it for a while. To me, that's disappointing. And I thought a little reactionary because again, those first 4 games this year when they were 2-2, yeah, and there were obviously some difficulties and some turnovers, but AJ didn't play 3 of them. So I thought it was way too reactionary to make that kind of drastic change, but it's hard to argue that when you've won every game since. And that's the Eagles are almost a prisoner of their success now, because you don't want to say, oh, we won 9 games, let's change for the sake of change. It's hard to do that. In fact, if you want to go back to last year, I think Nick Sirianni's biggest mistake, and I've said this consistently, is taking the defense away from Sean Desai. Not that it was great, but it was a hell of a lot better than Matt Patricia. And he thought about that change when they were 8-1, which is 8-0 actually. I believe. No, I forget. Anyway, with the bye week, whatever they were, they had a tremendous record. And he was started to think about it. And then the Dallas game, he took away 3rd downs, and then he took away the whole thing. Nutty. So I don't think they're going to be doing that again offensively and saying, all right, we've won 9 straight games, but this is not working well, so we should change and become Dan Marino. I don't think you're looking for that,
Right.
but you are looking for more effectiveness in the passing game.
Yeah, we'll see. Good stuff there. Appreciate it, Rashid. Jason A-Team says, everyone forgets the media is the bridge between the team and the fans. Without any of its parts, it wouldn't be as popular or as powerful of an entity. But Hurts had a great presser yesterday. I think that's well said there, Jason A-Team. And Hurts did have a good presser. John, any response for A-Team?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, well, the media shouldn't be in the locker room. The media shouldn't do that. The media do. Well, again, you're not getting information you want, whether you realize it or not, if we're not in there.
Yeah.
You'll have the state-run media, so to speak, with, the team's websites, which is obviously always going to give you the rosiest picture. So again, it depends on what kind of fan it is. The fan who wants the actual information versus the fan that wants the cheerleader. But yeah, that's why even the NFL recognizes, why does so-and-so have to talk to the media? Because the NFL says they do. And why does the NFL say they do? Because they understand part of their popularity is due to the coverage of their sport And if
Yeah, it
that,
exponentially grows the
yeah,
league when there's thousands of podcasts in every city and shows and
yeah,
reporters and pieces, and it's exponential.
yeah. So, the NFL is well aware that it's, if people are talking about you, it's better than if people are not talking about you.
Good stuff. Dirty Air, big thanks, man. You dropped this and a $10 one. Big thanks, Dirty Air. Thank you for your support, brother. And it was great talking to you the other day on the round table. Fun talking with you guys. Dirty Air says, disconnect from the media for me. Is no one asking AJ what he meant by passing, or is this about Jalen? Giving him a chance to clarify on the spot. Instead, it was left up to interpretation, mostly by national media. And then he followed up and said, it wasn't up until 3 days later we got those questions answered. All part of your job is tough. Sports aren't what they are without you guys. I appreciate what you all do. Yeah, Johnny Mac wasn't there to follow up, but I understand what he's saying.
Yeah, but there were people that did follow up.
Yeah, and you saw the way
So
he wasn't giving a big
yeah,
answer there.
I don't know. He was asked. I have the transcript. He was asked multiple times, and he was just given 1 and 2 and maybe 5-word answers. He was given the opportunity to follow up many times. Chose not to. He was frustrated. Your thoughts on the offensive performance? It wasn't good enough. We did good things at times, but overall it wasn't good enough. That was probably his longest answer. What's going on with the passing offense? I don't know. You say offense not good enough. What are some things it has to improve on? Passing. That was the key quote. Devontae says everyone wants to get into a rhythm. How hard is that? Only throwing 20, 21 times a game. Incredibly tough. Moments on the sideline when he threw at the end of the bench through his helmet. What prompted that? 3 and out. As a leader of this offense, what's saying about change? What are you saying about changing the offense and standard? Put our head down, go to work, and doing the things that we're doing. Yada yada. Express concerns to Kellen. Yes. How have those conversations gone? Well. Problems fixable in the passing game. Are they fixable? Yeah, everything is fixable. Anything can get better. What would it take to fix? I don't know. Does that sound like not following up? He had literally 10 opportunities. So, again, that's just not the case.
Good stuff, Dirty Air. Thank you for your support, brother. Jeff Bone says, we're fine. We're good. I like it, Bonehead. Appreciate you being here, brother. Great talking with you the other day on the show as well. Rodney Burton checks in, John. What is CHF? Is that Swiss franc? What?
I don't know.
CHF currency? Any idea?
I do not know.
See, John is my
no, but I'm not. Martin Frank's the world traveler. Martin goes.
Okay, so Martin would know that. Maybe I gotta get CHF. I think it's Swiss franc. I'm not exactly sure what the hell it is. He says, John and Zander, great job. I think Jalen's height affects his vision. Kellen Moore needs to move the pocket around because that line is massive and he's missing wide open guys on the move. Also, they should use mesh concept. But they have been using a little bit more of mesh. At least it looks like it to me. But I think it's an interesting point about the line, John. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I can't speculate whether it is or it isn't a problem, but
it is a Swiss franc, though. I'm obsessed with that. Yes, it is.
Is it? I thought it was something like that.
That's a good job by you. Swiss, yeah, it is a Swiss franc.
There you go. Rodney, follow it up.
Yeah, I mean, as far as they've been using mesh concepts for years, but the passing up, the height thing, but Kai Becton's the biggest guard I've ever seen. But I mean, what is the difference between 6'7" and 6'5"? And I asked Jalen that question in the preseason, and he said, yeah, it's a thing. I mean, anytime Lane's 6'6", Jordan's 6'8", Makai's close to 6'8", although he seems bigger than Jordan, so he's probably Landon 6'6" inside. I mean, in the past, they've had Lane forever, obviously. Brandon Brooks was 6'5". It's the way the NFL's going. Jalen's not the only quarterback who's undersized from a height standpoint from traditional. I mean, you have the Drew Breeses of the world. You have Russell Wilson coming in this week, who's under 6 foot.
Right.
You know, Drew's obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback. Russell's probably going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, yeah, I don't put too much credence in that.
Yeah. I think it could be a factor, but I don't think it could be an excuse or a reason that you can't see. I mean, I think it could potentially limit you a little bit, but I don't think it could be a reason that you're missing
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. I mean, would it be nice that, if you had Justin Herbert's size? Sure. But it's not realistic.
Rodney, thanks for the super chat, man. We appreciate that from Switzerland, the Swiss franc. I love it. One more super chat here, and then we will get into this game here. I appreciate everybody for helping us reach our super goal today. Pretty cool of you guys for dropping all these super chats. JH says, the reality is we have a decent QB, but certainly no GOAT. We have to accept this for the time being. He does have many game-winning drives and seems to get it done when it matters despite his flaws. Now that I will 100% agree with. He wins a lot of
talk about it all the
games.
time. Relentlessness. He's so relentless on opposing team. And even in that game, as poorly as he played, he had 4 big off-schedule plays that helped him win the football game. He's a very I use the term unique all the time. He's a very unique player. And like typically, if you give those numbers that for a quarterback, you have no chance to win the game. But they're not generating passing stats, but they're not generating 35-yard runs on third down, 15-yard runs on third down, 27-yard passes on off-schedule plays. They're not doing that. He is. So there's plenty of good. You just want to get them back to where the effectiveness of the passing is, and I'm not even saying top tier like it was at times in 2022. I'm just saying middle of the road. For all the talk about Brian Johnson, the passing game last year was a hell of a lot better than this year. I got news for you people.
It was way better. And it's not just about volume. That's what I'm going to get into in hour number 2. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show John some stats that I was looking up, and not really stats. They're more grades. And I'm going to get John's take on it because I wonder if Kellen Moore is, has got to be better.
There's unintended consequences to everything. That's why I brought up Eric Dickerson and Adrian Peterson and Chris Johnson and all these 2,000-yard runs. There's unintended consequences. And when you're that good running the ball, you tend to fall off passing the ball. And that's why it's probably better to have a 1,500-yard rusher playing at an all-pro level.
Right.
And it's probably better to have a little bit of both columns. Then on the other end, same thing. If you're throwing it around like Dan Marino, if you're throwing it around like Dan Fouts, that's not good either if you have no running game to complement it. So it works both ways.
Yeah, definitely could use some more balance. All right, appreciate everybody for all those super chats to start the show here. Here we go. The turning of the page, okay? Turning of the page on the drama.